much, Minister. Thank you very much. Everybody, let's take our seats. The Vice Chancellor of this great university, Dr. Ogutu, and the university leadership, Excellencies, honorable members present, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to thank each and every one of you for finding time to participate in this inaugural conference on Africa Continental Free Trade Area and engage with the most important fundamental issues in terms of Africa's overdue economic transformation. We are at a historic juncture in world development in which Africa, at long last, is emerging as a focal point of important global strategic discourse with tremendous political, security, environmental, and most importantly, economic implications. Throughout the modern age, Africa has been profiled as a troubled continent which abounds with immense potential, limitless possibilities, but year after year, overcoming these challenges and actualizing has remained a very elusive target. Consequently, Africa has continued to rank unfavorably when it comes to participating, contributing, and competing in the global economic space relative to other regions. As Minister Miano has said, Africa only accounts for 3% of global trade because a stronger performance is prevented by disjointed and fragmented markets. Besides other structural deficiencies and historical legacies which undermine sound institutional development, impede efficiency, and limit the possibility of robust economic growth and transformation. Historically, the continent has been afflicted by colonial tyranny, economic exploitation, and political instability, which have hindered Africa's ability to participate fully in global trade and benefit from its own resources. Although politically sovereign, economically we have been trapped in a vicious cycle of underdevelopment and want, now compounded by a huge debt trap and a runaway climate crisis. The profile of Africa has been so pessimistic that its endowments were deliberately cast in despairing light. Africa's resources were portrayed as a curse that would only bring conflict and bloodshed instead of wealth and progress. Africa's growing youthful population was similarly represented as a ticking time bomb that would explode into intense poverty and endless fighting. Even Africa's forests and other resources were not spared. Despite an indeed very often, because of its abundant endowments, Africa has been persistently underrated, underrepresented, and relegated to the margins of economic discourse while being at the center of negative political conversation. These conversations are changing, and I'm very happy that we are changing the narrative about Africa. And the narrative is changing because we have learned to tell our story as Africans. much of the difficulty encountered by many countries arose from international economic and financial system configured to sustain a rigid development pathway. Consequently, resources typically flew in one direction, on the cheap, to the benefit of the powerful industrialized nations, which control the levers of the system today, while finished products are afterwards imported to these same countries in our continent at a price that make utter mockery of our endowments, our aspirations, and our progress. At the center of all discourse concerning Africa's relative underdevelopment and low economic, in the midst of such staggering plenty, is the question: why is a continent that is larger than all other continents and land masses combined, which is home to over 1 billion and a bit people, and sits at all these resources, contributing only 3% of global trade and only 0.8% of global GDP? That is the question we need to answer. And that is the question we've been working hard to answer. And this is the question we need Strathmore and the center that's going to be set up here to help us answer. As soon as one reflects upon this question, it becomes clear that there exists a connection between Africa's underperformance in absolute and comparative terms and the equally low levels of intra-Africa trade and investment. Let me give you examples. Between 1995 and 2017, intra-African trade grew from 10% to 17%. That is a period of 22 years. For perspective, consider that the next lowest region in regional trade is North America at 31%, then Asia at 59%, while Europe stands at 69, almost 70%. There lies the issue. We speak about EAC because, and that's what Michele here was referring to, we have tried to tear down the barriers to East African trade. And that is why today EAC, intra-EAC trade within the countries in EAC is at about 27%, the highest in the continent of Africa. But compared to where other regions are, you can see that we have so much ground to cover. The EU is a highly integrated market with a parliament, judiciary, and a single currency. And this unity is amply reflected by its GDP and levels of regional trade, investment, and integration. It has been clear for a while now that strengthening unity of African and deepening economic integration on a continental scale would confer on us tremendous opportunity and benefits on a scale commensurate with our stature, profile, needs, and aspirations. A decade ago, therefore, the African Union laid down the agenda to guide our endeavors to achieve this goal by 2063 through a development roadmap which envisions an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the international arena. This agenda explicitly sets out the direct connection between Pan-African unity, economic development, and peace and security, at once exposing the fundamental economic drivers of our failures and fundamental economic vision as the engine of unprecedented African transformation. Today, Africa is beginning to hum with the energy unleashed by the unfolding of innumerable opportunities, thanks to regional and Pan-African integration. Trading has commenced under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And even in these early stages, the potential to rapidly grow intra-African trade beyond earlier projections is very evident. Many firms are going back to the drawing board because the full implications of the huge scale of this platform are beginning to emerge. A seamless market of 1.4 billion people, launching off to a GDP of 3.4 trillion, is a tremendous start by all accounts. It is projected to increase incomes by at least 7% throughout our 54 countries by 2035, thereby lifting over 30 million people out of poverty. There is much optimism and excitement as we embark on a new chapter in Africa's economic journey. The launch of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area marks a significant milestone in our pursuit of economic transformation across our continent. The time for Africa's economic transformation and industrialization has come, and we must execute a transition from merely supplying world market to raw commodities to broad spectrum of value-added contributions, including tradable services, as well as embracing the rapidly evolving digital technologies to accelerate economic growth and create employment opportunities for the continent's burgeoning youth population. The ACFTA, therefore, provides a crucial opportunity for Africa to define the terms and conditions under which we shall pursue African self-sufficiency with the aim of actualizing authentic African self-determination. Under the African Continental Free Trade Area, we have a chance to transform our continent into a global economic powerhouse and elevate the lives of millions of African citizens. It is projected that the AfCFTA would create 2 million additional jobs and lift